Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Sin and Tonic. Today's story is that of Melanie Wallner. Lots of twists and turns in this one. Let's go. Sin and Tonic! Back with a bang. For those of you that don't know, I had I think it might have ended up being 4 weeks, like a 4-week break from filming, and I have missed it so much. I have missed you all so much. I thought I was going to cry, but to be honest, right now I'm so like, I can't believe that I'm back up the shed. It just all feels a bit surreal actually. So I don't feel tearful yet. There's time. I'm well prepared. The only thing I haven't got is tissues. That was a mistake. I have my notes. I have lipstick. I have gin. Cheers. Cheers. Double cheers, very important. And snacks. Thought I might be here a while because I'm out of practice and I want to chat with you at the end. For now, let us get on with the case. Where are we going, Sophie? Where are we going? Oh, and I gave myself eye strain. Do you remember I had all that eye issue before? Well, end of uni, loads of laptop work, eye strain. It's not fun, I tell you. They're really sore. Today we are going to Cobham, Surrey, and on the 6th of June 2009, well, that's like, when this comes out, it's going to only be, it's near to, June. It's June, is what I'm trying to say. On that day, in June 2009, 6th of June, Saturday, a body is discovered in a wheelie bin. The landlord and the landlady of the property found the body. What a thing to find. I always think that. I know I say it every single time, but they call the police come, and the whole house and the property and everything, the bin, is all now a crime scene. The body is taken and examined, and it is determined that this is a female body. The body of this unidentified female was placed into a sleeping bag and then placed into the bin. She was only wearing knickers and an eye mask. Did I say cheers? Cheers. The house had been empty for a while and the previous tenant had left and there was still a bit of furniture in the house, but mostly it was empty. It had been cleaned. It smelt like bleach. In the shed, they found a mattress, and it was unusual because there was a big blue stain, like blue paint or ink on that mattress. So that was weird. So they took that in to test it. Other than that, there was no suggestion of anything odd, weird, or any hint that a crime had taken place. Because the tenant had left, it wasn't that odd that the house had been cleaned and that it smelled of cleaning products. Just always feels suspicious, doesn't it? The minute anything says smelt strongly of bleach, you're just like, someone died there. Someone was killed. There was a clean-up. The landlords were really helpful and they gave the names of all of the previous tenants of the property in case this body was somebody that had lived there before. The autopsy was really difficult because the body had badly decomposed. Just think about that. Wrapped, like secured in a sleeping bag, in a wheelie bin, in June. What? Humming. To identify the unidentified female, they looked at dental records and they found a match to a previous tenant of the address, Melanie Wallner. But this is where it gets spicy. Yeah, this early in the case, spicy. Because according to the landlords, and it would turn out everybody else, Melanie Wallner had been dead for 3 years. Not just dead, but dead, cremated, in an urn, with her family, 3 years ago. I told you, this one is twisty and turny. Snack break. It is so good to be back up the shed. I have missed you so much. It's just starting to sink in now. It's weird. It's like, when I was setting up, I've forgotten how to set up. Where does stuff go? What plugs in where? Who? It's hot in here though. I don't have the fan. Forgot the fan. Oh wow. My excitement will get me through. These are good. These are good. We're back. We are back. And I've finished university. It's all going to sink in. Also, I had to wear my glasses and it's annoying me already with the ring light. I just couldn't do it with the contacts because my eyes are so sore. Just like ASMR. I would hate that. Nope. So, I left you hanging on a spicy bit. Melanie was originally from South Africa, so the police reach out over there, speak to her family. According to them and to her friends and other people that she knew, Melanie had died 3 years previous to 2009 of a brain aneurysm. However, there were no medical records or death certificate or anything to suggest that that was the case. That is what you call fishy. Melanie's lovely family in South Africa, they provided the police here in the UK with her diaries. She had been born in South Africa and she had moved to England in 1996. I was 10 then. Do you want to see a picture of me when I was 10? I've got one. I was looking at it this morning. How funny. I think I might have been 9. Anyhow. Can you see? 9-year-old safe. I was so proud of that pink ball. Got it for my birthday. Oh, there's going to be lots of digressions. I'm very excited. Is that English? I'm going to digress many times. Melanie was happy, bubbly, fun. She was kind, she was nice. She sounded very sweet. She worked as a waitress at the House of Commons. Hello, that's a cool job, isn't it? I'd like that. And she also then went to work at the Marriott Hotel, so she worked in these fancy places as a waitress. That was in Regent's Park. This is where she met Peter Wallner. He was a chef, really common, that relationship, waitress, chef, happens all the time. They met, they fell in love, and then they got married. And then they ended up working together in Woodlands Park Hotel. Sounds fancy. So Peter Wallner is man of interest, most definitely, and he's nowhere to be found. The decomposition of Melanie's body was not consistent with her having been dead for 3 years. However, nobody at all had seen her for 3 years. So what's that about? They believed that in order for her body to look how it did at this time in 2009, her body must have been kept cold and then recently put into this wheelie bin. As part of their investigation, the police went round the local area to talk to people about Melanie. When did they last see her? And this is when it became apparent that it had been like 3 years. 3 years, and everybody thought that she died of an aneurysm. And she just disappeared. No one had seen her again. A local shopkeeper, as part of this investigation, told police that he had seen Peter Wallner 2 weeks previously and that he had, spicy, getting even spicier, Peter had sold the shopkeeper a freezer, like a chest freezer. But what do you know? The shopkeeper could not use it because it smelt so bad. That is grim. So they really want to find Peter. The shopkeeper also told the police that Peter was planning on going to Germany to visit his family, so that's where Peter was originally from. The freezer in question, shopkeeper had bought this freezer off of Peter for 20 quid, and it wasn't actually for him, it was for his brother who owned a shop nearby. So his brother was the one that took the freezer and then couldn't use it because it smelled so horrible. And the police went to this shop and they took the freezer for evidence. It's just starting to get worm. The investigation continued, and I love good police work. How it all just sorts together and what they find. Okay, anyway, the police found that the last time that anybody saw Melanie alive was on the 27th of August in 2006. She had gone into a Chinese takeaway, ordered and paid with a cheque that had the date on it and her address on it. The police also read through Melanie's diaries. Melanie had found out that Peter was having an affair with a student, and it was absolutely devastating to her. People said that she was besotted with Peter, and also, I mean, you would hope so, wouldn't you? Like husband and wife, he's dropping the ball here, not her. And they also mentioned that Melanie, was very dedicated to their marriage. Again, yeah, you would hope so. Her diaries showed that this was indeed very true, and it was so. It's very odd when someone has died and then there's diaries and stuff, because especially like in this circumstance, those things are meant to be private, aren't they? Forever, I guess, unless it's your closest people. But everyone knows about it if you die in circumstances like this. So it's sad, but it painted the picture, of how things were between her and Peter, and she was determined to make their marriage work, and she would have done anything. So they agreed to not work together because it was probably a bit too much, and they were going to, they were spending too much time together. So she thought it might help if they didn't work together. And she wrote about not giving up on them. All the while, throughout this whole investigation, they still cannot find Peter. Do you remember the mattress in the shed, the mattress with the blue paint or ink? Well, that was tested, and it turns out that the ink or the paint was to disguise what was really there. And this blows my mind. Why on earth, if something has gone down and the mattress is evidence, why, if the house is emptied apart from a few random bits of furniture, why would you leave the mattress in the shed? What? I mean, thank God, this large portion of the mattress that's covered in this blue paint was covered in and saturated in Melanie's blood. Melanie's cause of death in her autopsy was shown to be blunt force trauma to her face and her head. And the mattress, with her blood, a lot of it, would suggest that Melanie had been attacked in bed. I hadn't thought about this, okay, but when you die, your stomach stops digesting. So the pathologist also looked at her stomach contents, and the last meal that she ate was indeed that Chinese that she had ordered. So they had the check and that she'd paid with the date on it and her address and the order that she'd ordered, and that was what was in her stomach. So that was the last thing she ate before she died. So all of that evidence placed her time of death on the evening of the 27th of August in 2006. The freezer was also tested because that date is 3 years in the past. Her body would not look like it did. She was definitely kept somewhere cold and then put into the bin. The freezer had been cleaned, but they did find traces of blood in the freezer, and it did match Melanie's. So she had been killed in her bed on the evening of the 27th of August 2006, and her body had at some point after that been placed into this chest freezer, and then at some point much more recently put into the wheelie bin. The hunt for Peter would continue, and it's hard to believe it, but he stayed living at that house until 2 weeks before Melanie's body was discovered in the wheelie bin. Before Peter left the property and went off to Germany, he asked his neighbour to take the bin out on the next bin day. The bin was incredibly heavy, and for that reason, you know what bin men are like. I don't know if it's the same in the US of A, but here, if it's like too heavy, deemed too heavy, they won't take it. So they didn't. They refused to take the bin. Thankfully, because otherwise, otherwise this story wouldn't even exist. Oh, it's scary to think how many times, not this exact thing has happened, but how many people are lost. The next part of the story, honestly, talk about narcissist, okay? Wow. The police issue like a big press release around Europe because they don't know where Peter is. It's looking very likely that he's murdered his wife and put her in a chest freezer and then put her in a bin. So they need to find this guy. They put this news broadcast out, hoping that somebody would identify this man who's obviously gone off into hiding. Peter Wallner himself saw the press release, saw it on the news. He was in Malta. He'd moved to Malta. And when he saw the press release, he called the UK police and handed himself in. He flew back to England. Again, thank God. But why? He thought so much of himself, so highly of himself and his capabilities and his story, that he flew back and gave a very sick performance. He really went for it, and he really, truly, honestly believed that he could talk his way out of it, that he was so charming and so, honestly, it angers me, because it's like, who do you think you are? Peter's story was this. They had had an argument that night, Peter and Melanie, and it was a violent one. She had hit him with a rolling pin. She then stabbed him 3 times in the leg, and he had pictures of this. He said that at that point, fearing for his life, he turned around and he punched her in the face. He said that this was fair and square, like it was self-defense, trying to get, like she deserved it. She deserved it. She just stabbed me in the leg 3 times, hit me with a rolling pin. So I punched her in the face. But while he is telling this story, he is laughing. Like he's not telling this story. Like, what? Psychopath? Laughing about it. Fair and square, punched her in the face. He goes on to say that Melanie grabbed a very heavy saucepan, like a frying pan. I don't know what it is exactly. I'll share a picture with you, but they're like cast iron. So he was a chef, wasn't he? It's one of those things that you would have in like a professional restaurant. I'm sure people have them at home as well. I'm no cook. But they are heavy, heavy, heavy. So like you would need 2 hands to pick it up. And then he said that she launched it back and went to hit him round the head with it. It's a really heavy pan, but this is what he said she did. He then got the pan from her hand, this is his story, and he hit her 3 times in the face and the head, and she just dropped to the floor, dead. He said there was no movement, she wasn't breathing, there was a lot of blood. Again, the way he's telling this story is just very matter of fact, like, he's just with less like even feeling than I am giving it to you. The next morning, he ordered a chest freezer. He put it in the shed and he placed her body inside the freezer. I'm just going to finish his story and then we'll talk about it. But what the hell? He then cleaned the house. He must have ordered a new mattress. He then called her family to tell them that she had died of a brain aneurysm. He burnt wood on a barbecue and placed it in an urn, travelled to South Africa with the urn, gave it and some of her belongings to her distraught family, and they had a memorial service for Melanie. And he was pissed off about this. He was pissed off that he had to do all of this stuff. That it was such a waste of his time and energy, but he had to do it. He said that before he moved out, he sold the freezer and then he placed her body in the sleeping bag, in her knickers and socks. He thought she might have had socks on, he couldn't remember, into the wheelie bin. There is so much wrong with this. He had no idea what evidence the police had. He's never watched an episode of CSI, has he? A bit of blue ink on the mattress. Really? Leave the mattress in the shed? Really? Say that the incident happened downstairs in the hall, like in the kitchen downstairs where you were fighting, and not on the bed? That it's got blood on it that you're not going to get rid of? Silly. Again, thank God, but phone records showed that Wallner had started another affair with another colleague just before he killed Melanie. Melanie was murdered the day before Peter's birthday. And on Peter's birthday, he took his new girlfriend out to a fancy restaurant. This is not the action of someone that has just killed their husband, wife. He ordered champagne, spent a fortune. I can smell burning. It's barbecue. Calm down. He then went back to his house, where the night before he had murdered Melanie, and he slept with his new girlfriend in the bed that he had murdered Melanie in the night before. This is not the first time we have seen a case like this, where a man bumps his wife off because he's got a new girlfriend and, you know, he's lied or whatever, and he's just like, I'll just get her out of the way. What is with some people? Also, in his tale of events, you might have had an argument with your wife. You might be really angry with her. Like, we all argue with our partners, husbands, whatever, wives, you know, with friends even. Like, you might argue, we've all had arguments where it gets really, like, heated and, like, your blood is boiling. If that led to violence and a physical fight, and then killing by accident, you're going to assume, your partner or your friend or your loved one, you would still be sad. You would still hope that you could save them, you know, and you certainly wouldn't hit them maybe, I don't know, even if that had happened, you would ring an ambulance, you would be concerned, you would still, if there is any love in that relationship and you are not a raging psychopath, narcissistic twat, do you know, there is a beautiful moment in his interview where the police put it to him, this cocky, arrogant son of a gun. They put it to him that he killed her in her bed, their bed, and that they could prove it because of the old eye mask. Now that proved a mistake. He left her eye mask on. Why would this woman, in the middle of a violent argument with her husband, don an eye mask? You know, the ones that you sleep in. Why would she do that? Why would she put an eye mask on when she's wielding a frying pan at your head? Why? And then all of a sudden he's much less cocky and arrogant. They also tell him that they found the mattress and that the blue ink didn't work. What? I don't know why I did blue ink. It was blue ink, I think. Well, it might have been paint. I don't know. Was that right or wrong? Got mad. Didn't work, mate. Didn't disguise it. We found her blood. She was in the bed. She had an eye mask on. He utterly panicked. Oh, I don't remember an eye mask. I don't remember anything about an eye mask. Don't remember that. I know he was panicking, but you could lie about that, couldn't you? You could just be like, I couldn't bear to look at her. Yeah? Oh, I'm dangerous. But that's what I would say. I couldn't bear to look at her after what I'd done, so I put an eye mask on. That's what I would have said. Wouldn't have mattered anyway, though. I'll tell you why. It was damaged. Where the injury was on her face coincided with the damage that was done to her eye mask. So they could prove that the one of the blows from this heavy pan had damaged her face and had damaged the eye mask. So it proved that when she died, she was wearing the eye mask. So even if he had thought to lie and say that he put it on afterwards, they proved that the damage was done from her being hit wearing the eye mask. The eye mask was also saturated with Melanie's blood. At trial, Wallner was found guilty and he was sentenced to a minimum of 20 years in prison. Another case, I cannot believe it, I cannot get over it, another case where somebody chose to get rid of their spouse, to kill their wife, to make room for a new lover. And that is not, I'm sure the new lover did not find that romantic. It's sick. It's horrible. It's horrible for that person as well, to think that you played any part in that. Not that it's their fault, but I think you'd still have feelings about that. What are my final thoughts on this one? He would have got away with murder. If the binman had taken that bin, her body most likely would never ever have been discovered. That's terrifying. He nearly got away with murder. He got away with murder for 3 years. I can't believe he pulled that off. I can't believe that he just said that she died. But then again, it wasn't like they lived in this country. Her family were in South Africa. So yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? And he flew out with an urn of ashes. I think I used it properly then. And what? Like, that is crazy. And he was so angry about having to make that effort, but he was like, oh, to avoid suspicion. Again, dear, if you had accidentally killed your wife in an argument, you would not have put her body into a freezer. You would have called for help. Yeah, wouldn't you? I mean, even though you know that you're going to get in loads of trouble, he came back to England to confess. Like, if that's what you would have done the whole time, do it then. Like, what? I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, he's crazy. I mean, obviously. Honestly, like, he feels wronged in this situation. Really? Oh, come on, mate. And all of that, all of this, I know he's bonkers, but he's killed an innocent woman. She has her like, it just, that is all I have for you on today's case. So glad to be back. Every time I say that, I'm like, guess who's back? Back again. What have you all been up to? Fill me in. Anything exciting? Any gossip? I don't have any real news because I was studying. Gave myself the eye strain, but I finished it. It was, the day after was a bit anticlimactical. I don't know if that's an English word, but I didn't feel, I'm only just starting to feel it lift off of me. So yeah, and now I'm just like coming back down to earth. I will be back to weekly videos. Very excited about that. Oh, I have missed it a lot. I still can't believe I'm back up the shed. Imagine it wasn't recording this whole time. I just looked and thought, yeah. Once I recorded with no sound. Any case suggestions, let me know. Please put them in the comments. I love a suggestion. I might have some that I need to catch up on, actually. I'll have a look. But yeah, I could talk to you all day, but I'm very hot. And I have to remind myself I'm going to be back next week. It's all okay. It's all back to normal. Don't freak out. I'm talking to myself. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Sin and Tonic. Hope you can join me next week for another true crime story and a glass or a bottle or a jug or a mug or a massive big hug of gin. Love you, miss you, really want to kiss you. I'll see you next week. Bye.